the way everyone just like settled in was really very striking. Very listening audience. I appreciate it. My name is Bonnie. My pronouns are they, them, and I'm the poetry event coordinator here at Brookline Booksmith. Today, it is my pleasure to host two wonderful poets, Nadia Alexis and Macaisa Colgate, for our third Thursday's poetry reading series. You may have noticed this is not a third Thursday because last Thursday was Juneteenth, so we bumped it a week to celebrate the holiday. Before I do introductions, I do have just a few housekeeping notes. Firstly, copies of these two incredible collections of poetry are available for sale at the back counter over there. I do encourage you to support the poets' work in whatever way you can, whether that means buying a book, following them online, saying nice things to them while you and them are in the same room, and also, of course, just being in this space and being a listening audience is a huge way to show support. So thank you. Please also keep your phones on silent or off, turn them off for the duration of our reading. Please know as well that the event is being live streamed. Hello to YouTube. It's being live streamed from this iPad right here. Our audience should not be visible to our live stream viewers, but if you don't want to be live on YouTube, don't stand directly in front of it and you will be golden. And finally, we will have a Q&A at the end of the event, followed by a signing. So please hold your questions until the end, but definitely have them ready to go. As I mentioned before, this reading is part of a monthly poetry series here at Brookline Booksmith called Third Thursday's Poetry, which takes place on, usually, unlike tonight, the third Thursday of the month. So if you're a poetry lover and you want to come through and check that out, our events are always listed on our website. Housekeeping aside, now for the fun part, introductions. Nadia Alexis is a poet and photographer born and raised in Harlem to Haitian immigrants. She's the author of Beyond the Watershed, a hybrid collection, which was also a finalist for the 2022 Ghost Peach Press Prize. Her writing has appeared in Poets and Writers, Wild Imperfections, an anthology of womanist poems, and numerous others. Her honors include a Literary Arts Fellowship grant from the Mississippi Arts Commission, a semi-finalist in the 92Y Discovery Poetry Contest, and an honorable mention poetry prize from the Hurston Wright College Writers Award. A fellow of the Callaloo Creative Writing Workshop and the Watering Hole, she holds a PhD and an MFA in Creative Writing from the University of Mississippi. Thank you, Nadia, so much for being here with us today. And of course, Macaisa Colgate is a disabled Filipino-American poet from Evanston, Illinois. He received an MFA in Poetry and Critical Disability Studies from the New Writers Project at UT Austin. Hardly Creatures, published this year from Tin House, is his debut poetry collection, and he is also the author of the verse drama My Love is Water, which came out earlier this month through Ugly Duckling Press. Rob's poems appear or are forthcoming in American Poetry Review, Best New Poets, New England Review, and elsewhere. In 2025, he was awarded a National Endowment for the Arts Creative Writing Fellowship in Poetry, and he's also received support from MacDowell, Fulbright, and Lambda Literary, among others. A former Fulbright scholar, Rob currently serves as the managing poetry editor at Fog Lifter. Thank you, Rob, so much for being here. Everyone, we are so excited to have these two incredible poets here to share their beautiful work with us. Please give them both a warm welcome.
Just testing to make sure transcription is still on. Cool. This is not going to be super accurate though. Great. Sensory room. Feel free to flip back here whenever you need. Stay as long as you want. The light stays as dim as you would like. I promise the light stays. Interpretation. Thumb and pinky extended while moving towards self, then fingers on both hands folded toward chest, An index finger pointed up and spun in circle. Thumb and pinky extended and hands moved down. Hands rotated at wrist toward center of body, where third and fourth fingers folded toward body, then index finger to the lips, then flat palm pressed on top of other fist. Index finger pointed up and away, then hands rotated at wrist toward center of body, where third and fourth fingers folded toward body. Hi.
Hi.
I'm Rob. Thank you so much, Brookline Booksmith, for having me. Thank you, Bonnie. Thank you, Nadia, for reading with me. Quick visual description. I have brown skin, pink hair. I'm wearing a beige shirt. I'm about to put on a brown jacket. That's not a move, I just forgot it earlier. Okay, that feels better. It's awesome to be here with you on Massachusetts and Wampanoag land. We have, by the books too, masks that match the cover of Hardly Creatures if you want. We also have access bracelets that show how much you'd be willing to socialize, so feel free to use those too. Throughout my reading tonight, if I'm going to say anything potentially triggering, I'm just going to put my hand in the air, and when I'm done, I'll put it down, so you can block it out if you need. And otherwise, yeah, it's just fabulous to be here. Okay, let's read some poems. Therapist. She is not very good at her job. Psychosis under control. We do not get into childhood, the hiding in an empty dehumidifier box, or going from friend's house to friend's house, telling each I had eaten at the last. Instead, she wants to be my friend, and I think she could be a good friend if she were not supposed to be helping me, if she were not some flimsy proxy for a doctor. But she is. She runs the insurance every week, and I cannot tell what she knows and remembers about me, whether she is trying to find something bad about me or has simply run out of meaningful questions. I tell her that sometimes when the run doesn't stretch me enough, I look up the cost of certain cosmetic procedures. She does not ask how I might find a more innocent way to convene with my stomach fat. Instead, she asks how much the procedures cost, considers getting one herself. When I tell her I am trying to get to know my madness as a friend, she insists that I must start asking Eli to ensure I take my medication every night. And sometimes, at home, I hear her voice, like I have left my earbuds on my desk while going to the kitchen and the music is still playing. The voice says, "You have such a handle on things, it's like you're not even actually ill." And I wish it were a hallucination instead of a memory. When I want to kill myself, I figure out an approximation of the feeling to share with her so I am not reinstitutionalized. I think I would rather be a sunbeam than have to exist in this hard and formal body. She gives advice as if out of a greeting card. Just because you're in a storm doesn't mean it's over. And I know by it she means my life, but what I hear is the storm. One day I ask what she really thinks will happen when my coverage ends and I must go on living like this. She says, "To be honest, I think you will probably die from this." To her meaning the sickness, to me meaning my life. Hardly Creatures. This poem begins with an epigraph. The anthropologist Margaret Mead was asked about the first evidence of human civilization, and allegedly her response was a healed femur. The digital tour guide tells us how we are animals, as if we don't already know, as if sleep is a game we play, as if hunger is incidental every day at lunch. We enter a virtual room with an improbable flock of birds suspended at eye level, 100 species flying together. The guide tells us about a bonded pair of male crows, how when one lost his lower mandible to a crashed window, the other began to forage for them both, chewing up seeds and worms and pushing the bolus down his partner's throat. In another room, we pivot the camera angle and see a hill country creek running beneath our feet under thick, clear plastic. We learn how the blind salamander compensates for its lack of eyesight with advanced sensitivity to changes in water pressure, sweeping its lonely head back and forth to detect small aquatic invertebrates. We creatures have always found a way, the recording chuckles. We have, I think, though this should not mean that we must. We pause the tour for Rosie to rest with her camera off. I wish the guide would stop calling humans creatures, she says. We're hardly creatures, the way we love each other. I nod, but can't stop thinking about the crows who love each other, the salamander who loves itself, the crows who only know caregiving, the salamander who only knows survival. Every creature forever feeding whatever mouth is in front of them, either born knowing how to love or picking it up down the line. I've got lots of family and friends here tonight, which is so lovely. My Aunt Nee said this is her favorite poem in the book, so I had to make sure I read it tonight. This poem is called Ward. Window, what allows you to see out, what separates you from what you see. Your only chance. Ward, to keep away, to safeguard. A guarded place you are kept, touched, honored, possessed, violated. See someone, a lover, a therapist, a hallucination. Murder, crows, a dying. Institution, me and all my friends, a dying. Form, a body, a set of rules, a set of empty spaces to fill out at the front desk. Derange, to go crazy, to finally leave a restricted range. Committed, you're staying, you're staying. Chronic, lasting forever, not dead yet. Cavity, an emptiness, a failure to care for yourself like a child. No toothbrush allowed. So this book takes the form of an accessible art gallery, which I can say more about later. But one of the things you can do to make art spaces more accessible is create tactile replicas of the art for people who privilege touch over sight, whether that's because they're low vision, whether that's because it's just a preferred sensory pathway. And so I was thinking a lot about sensory replicas when I was writing this. And I was like, what's a way to replicate a poem, but a little different? And so this next poem is in two parts, the original part, and then the second part is a replica, but I've removed all the words, erased all the words that aren't supposed to be touched. So what's left is a replica, but only what is there to be touched. And if that doesn't make sense, just enjoy the fun words, I guess. This poem is called Self-Portrait and Tactile Replica as Living Ghost. 1. Original work. Please do not touch. Throughout the gallery, ghosts of all senses. Ordinary invisible ghosts that no one can see except the blind. Ghosts in the audio room that only the deaf can hear. Ghosts in the thresholds felt only by phantom limbs. Ghosts hanging around like paintings, suspended too high to be experienced as intended by anyone sitting. Only discernible to those floating above their own bodies, as if dissociating in front of the monkmen's. Each ghost born from that part of a person that dies when, creeping through the museum on any Tuesday, slowly, frame by frame, you find there is no art for you. No portraits of haunting resemblance, no shared institutions at the didactic panels, no synonymy of color or shape or function. Just the realization that everything beautiful ever created for you was the result of an explicit request. And now, on the subway home, it is harder to believe that the boy actually wants to hold your hands, that you are not simply part of a quietly funded diversity initiative whose sponsor is very satisfied, very proud of himself, putting up with your moods as you stare slack-jawed at your reflection in the subway window and understand this is the only portrait of yourself that you get. And now the train arrives at the next stop. Your reflection disappears in the station's cruel lights. You are not home yet. And now over the loudspeakers comes crackling the city's insistent refrain. Please stand clear of the closing doors. Please do not make this harder on everyone. 2. Tactile replica. Feel free to touch this version of the art. Me, my hand. Now me. Now me. Please. Please. So I was sort of building out this gallery, and each of the wings I knew needed a bench, because you gotta have benches in the museum. You gotta sit down. I used to work in an art gallery that just put out big mattress-sized pillows on the ground, and you would just lay on the ground and look at the art. It was so lovely. So I was thinking what a bench would be in each wing of the book gallery, and I was wondering what opportunities for rest might come up in the poems. And while I was writing this book, I was also busy being very in love with my partner, which is ongoing. Didn't stop after the book. But so all of the benches sort of scattered throughout the wings of the book are love poems about my partner. So this is one of them. It's called Eli Eats Dirt. The boy I love eats dirt. He chews carefully, collects dirt in jars from different parks, stays stooped over in the dirt until he is late for his haircut, too focused on grinding dirt between his teeth. During the day, he works his dirty government job, attempting to keep peace between the dirt and the democracy. After work, though he is dead tired, he takes no break, ensures a spoonful of each sample is tried. He creates charts of what his taste can discern in the dirt, phytoliths indicating how the composition of the dirt can be traced back to certain ancient plants whose dearth has left boys like me with minds that reek of dirt. Some days I do want cure. Someday he will identify dirt of the correct strain, will spoon it to me while I lie delirious. Mud will pour from behind my eyes until I am entirely clean. Sorry, this is a collection of poems I also just put out a play, and if the collection of poems is sort of community oriented, thinking about how people, especially disabled people, take care of each other, the play is just me being a selfish 23-year-old. I wrote this and I was like heartbroken in Austin, Texas over like a bartender, which is a great job. But this person, anyway, I wrote this play. I'm gonna read one scene from it. It takes place at a house party attended by a bunch of Filipino nurses, hosted by some gay Filipino boy who's heartbroken, who could be anyone. This is scene 1, setting out tulips. Danilo putters around, getting the apartment ready. Starched barong, pink lipstick, pencil skirt. Lilia hangs around, annoying. Lilia tries to pry open Danilo's shoulder like a book. Out pour dozens of dried tulips that Danilo must explain. Danilo turns to the empty living room and speaks to the boy who won't show up. Back when things were good between us, Jason, I would fall asleep dreaming of my own future psychosis and how I would be able to text you, "Hey, tonight is really bad. Can I come over?" And you would say yes, and I would come over, and we would be overwhelmingly together, our bodies made tangible by the streetlights shining in on us like sweaters. But tonight it is dark. There are no veins in any of these petals. Do you want me in your blood or not? You were so happy. I did that. I only have a future because you once told me that I do. Now I do not have any of your tellings. Now all I have is leftover sago. So I keep myself busy. I count the ways that the light lies on your sweater draped over the porch banister. I open and close every book, every picture, every video of every boy who is happier and less anxious than me. I never wanted to distract myself. I only wanted to lie next to you with my shame half open. You were the one who filled my tank with gas, who smeared my awful knees with light. Every night I slept next to you, I dreamt of you. REM, we should have saved those dreams. He's gone now. Promises made in the context of time are not promises. They are small hooks that catch on your skin. They are too bright in the first place. I am so hungry and you ate all my ube with your bare hands. I need to call home. I miss Danilo. You are the greyhound I always bet on and you are the bus that never comes. I have never been so absent. I think I am in love, but I'm asymptomatic. I will use my propensity for delusion to believe that I do not miss you, that you are coming back, that we are at the museum together and the two of us become an exhibit. Glass case, be small enough so my shoulder touches his. Lilia presses her face to Danilo's glass case. Danilo, this is the closest that anyone is able to get to Danilo. Danilo pretends to not know where the case came from. Okay, that's the play. Whatever. I'm gonna read two more short poems from this book. This one is called Empty Frame, for the artist who was too sick to ever finish the work or make it to the gallery. And I'll read one more poem. This poem is called Excess Rider. To shower in the dark, to waste time speaking, to stutter my hands, to ask for help, to ignore the help offered, to cry into coffee, to microwave a tortilla, to call this my prime, to not be so brave, to stay on the phone, to follow me home, to not leave myself. Thank you so much. Nadia Alexis.
Can y'all hear me in the back? I'm not the loudest person. Okay. I'll try to project. So I'm reading from my first book as well. which came out in March. I'm really excited to be here reading with Rob. Thank y'all for coming out. This first poem is the title poem of the collection. It's called Watershed. I arrive at my father's feet, a dying maple tree. He covers his eyes with mud while goats feast on my fallen hair. I hear my mother call for the Lord to send just enough rain for our lungs and her carnations to see a new season. My mother always said boys are best at taking. I once loved a boy who turned pomegranates in my yard into salt. In the mirror, I see a donkey's head without a home. Daisies dance atop her hair, and she teaches me how to wail for cover. My mother and I kneel on uncooked rice. Sweat of our hands no longer remembers its owner. Our knees become prunes. One night, I see my father leap and rock like a forgotten river. How he must know what it's like to fight against disappearance. The longer I stay in the home my lover and I built on this mountain, the more I tire of circadian leaps into the field of cacti. Every year, Lake Azuye rises and forces change on the trees and birds and people of the watershed. They no longer believe the water will leave them. I spend nights running from hail and the company of vultures. I make peace with the ways my father and I look away from errors and ruin. My parents make rituals of warning and I follow in their footsteps anyway. My mother says I can build a new home from clouds and I believe her. This next poem is called From Haiti to New York. My parents are from Haiti and I was born in New York. So this is the mother speaking. The Porepe sun was hiding that day. I was on my way to work. He was standing on his porch, his eyes trailing me like the wind. His cheeks stood upright as he bid me bonjour each morning. I always smiled, bid him the same, and kept walking until one day he asked me, "Ndaleme evito à manger?" And this time I stopped, told him he must meet my parents before he could take me to dinner. Without a second thought, he agreed. That day I floated to work like a child. My parents approved of this man who came to our home with clean, unfurled hands. Our love was a rooster song, sudden as lightning. His heart was made of mangoes and sugarcane. We married during a year without a search in a Catholic church whose name I can't remember. Our parents looked on in wells of joy, knowing little of the future that would strip us in the palm of his hands. Hola Lacaye and Bouillon waited for us in the reception hall. We danced into the signing of the book that sealed the pact we would honor, even when the universe begged us not to, on its knees with tears on its back. He flew to New York and built a home where I joined him, brim-bellied with life. When I gave birth to a quiet death, I also gave birth to you. Never marry someone like your father. Whippings from his gravel tongue leave stains I can't scrub away. His hands rip the soul from my chest as we've struggled to learn English, raise you girls, and keep the rain off our heads. Don't be like me. I married too soon. There is no love here, and the misery that lives in this home is nothing the good Lord would want. Thank you. Okay, so I have a series of 6 poems in this book that have the same title, but they just have different numbers. And they're called Prayer to Ezeli Danto. Ezeli Danto is a Haitian voodoo spirit who's considered the mother of Haiti, and she's also a protector of women and children who are victims of abuse. And so every time the poem appears, there's a photograph that appears with it. These are all self-portraits in the book, but this is this is the recurring photograph that appears. And each last line of the poem is the first line of the next poem, and they're kind of dispersed throughout the book. So I'm going to read maybe 2 of them. Prayer to Ezeli Danto, number 2. I lay in my own blood and remember them enough to write them all dead. Can I ask you, have you ever gazed at your lover and found yourself turned into a time traveler? One day he makes a mangled trail of you instead of bruising you eternally, or you are buried alive in a makeshift grave, or you are eating each second of his hands telling you of a kingdom you never knew. And so the story goes, we are given powers we never asked for. Every attempt to leave is a pigeon sentenced to life as a fledgling. Again and again, I fall in what I think is home. People look at me in confusion and say I must like being held underwater. This next poem is called How to Be Friends with a Sex Worker. And it's a 3-part poem. 1. Sit in the diner, wait for her to arrive, gaze at the sun in the wall, pull out your phone, slide your thumb across the screen, look up and smile when she walks through the door. In 2 weeks, she is 19. Watch her search through lips and eyes undone with hunger. Wave your hand. Stand as she walks to the table. Listen to the screech of home and the hug you share. Ask her how she's doing. Sit down, watch her hair bend in the August of her fingers. She tells you she's tired, but she's good. She asks you what's new. You tell her about the latest fight you're having with your man. She shakes her head and laughs. She tells you about the Craigslist date she had last night and how her pimp took all the money. Bread crumbles in your hand. 2. Drunk when you hear the ring. See an unfamiliar number appear on your screen. Pick up the phone. Try to hide the worry in your voice. Say hello. Her voice is loaded with bricks. She says he left her stranded. No phone, no money, no cigarettes. She is in New Jersey. She is cold. He is gone. She is crying. You are not breathing. You close your eyes and curse him again. She tells you he wants to teach her a lesson. You ask her what she needs you to do. She says she'll figure it out and call back. She doesn't. You try to sleep but can't. The sun rises. You call her phone again. He picks up. You ask him where she is. He calls you bitch and tells you to mind your business. You call him a piece of shit. Promise him he will pay. Demand to speak to her now. He sucks his teeth and click. You call back. He hits ignore. You call again. He picks up, passes her the phone. She says hello. You ask if she's okay. Your chest is lava. She says she's okay now. You sigh and tell her there's no home in this life. She tells you not to worry and that she's really okay. 3. It's spring break and you meet her at a bar. It's been weeks since you last spoke. You're late. She looks at you in annoyance. You laugh and apologize. She tells you she left him. You inhale. She works for herself now. Okay, this poem is called Language, and it's a palindrome poem, which is a mirror poem. The second half of the poem mirrors the first half, and the lines are just in reverse. So hopefully there's like a subtle change when you hear the lines again. Language. The ocean swallowed a father. My father's father whole. His father ate too many hearts of chicken and women. He ate his children, my father one of them. By the time my mother and father walked by the same tree, he was born again into new skins. My father is multilingual. He knows the cadence of clouds after murmuration, the language, algebra equations, American English, rough hands, Haitian Creole, turnbacks, and laughter. He taught me how to eat the sun in my own tongue. How to eat the sun in my own tongue, turnbacks and laughter. He taught me English, rough hands, Haitian Creole, algebra equations, American after murmuration, the language. He knows the cadence of clouds into new skins. My father is multilingual. By the same tree, he was born again. By the time my mother and father met his children, my father one of them. Too many hearts of chicken and women. He ate my father's father whole. His father ate the ocean and swallowed a father. Okay, so this is, suppose you failed to cover your mouth, and so evil spirits flew out of your body. And your throat became an abandoned rose garden beneath the blue storm of your mouth. One spirit is the man who killed your mother under a wolf moon in the middle of the 10th blackout that summer. And he struck her with enough help from serpents and zombies hiding in New York City alleys after long days of searching for sugar and freedom. Or maybe there was a spirit of the woman who flew through the night sky with wings made of her sleeping brethren's dreams and pieces of the river, building a new shed on mullets and pebbles and mountain song and blood of women washing their best. Or maybe there are spirits who are sisters who traded bird and sun-loved skin and laughter and candy air, who tended to each other's bruised backs and ruptured tongues with mango innards. And maybe in the midst of this, you forget to use your palms and forearms to shield you from a voracious fall. This is called a fable and superstition. Don't step over someone's outstretched legs or they won't grow. Grow like sunflowers in a field of other sunflowers. Grow like skin grows back when it bursts. Bursting balloons grow with faith and lungs. The lungs hold what we can't see. See the fledgling open its eyes and make cake of flight. Move like the clouds move with anticipation and the gaze of upturned eyes. Turn your gaze upward and resist scratching your arm when you are pregnant in the middle of a meal. You'll be marked forever. Blood marks the spot where he left you on your belly with dirt on your hands. Place your hands over your broken teeth. The elders always find some use for helping another child or three. Okay, so this is pray, the P-R-E-Y one. My lover once said a woman is best with a mouth as a closed door. If she should want to open it, let it be brief and of bright blooms. If she should dare to make herself bigger than a man, with her voice full of restless bells, she must be ready to make war with hands bare. If she can't, she must nail her tongue to a tree's bark, or he'll bury her into earth's belly. I no longer wish to be the ground carrying him, no longer wish to follow rules that drain me of fresh water. Today I'm guilty of becoming a falcon, every bit of him for my consumption. For years I have felt alone and dry-bellied, but tonight I am Ezeli Danjo's child, armed with scarred vines and silver. I strike and he falls like leaves under the weight of a half woman, half mountain. Prayer to Ezeli Danto, number 5. In my dreams, I run across the ocean and become more woman with each wave. Something like you, I fly bruiseless and renewed by blue suns. Assemblies of mothers and daughters sing and laugh big until we all fly hand in hand. We sweat and become our own guava horizons. Every coconut tree is a city that welcomes us. No one tries to take the moon from our teeth. In this world, we don't have to lower our heads or bend. Everywhere we go, so does the water. Our hair shimmies at the clouds and makes songs with the wind. No rape, no black eyes, no pockets or souls sucked dry. No one to lead us away from this home. Everything we can dream is blooming and true. Praise song for Ma. Praise the silence, it never leaves us without our shadows. Praise bees that remind me I still have breath in my body. Praise the will in you despite the weight of him in the world. Praise the warped toolbox and mirrors you put in my hands. Praise laughter after floods tried to take everything but our memories. Praise the skin, it mends and persists like trees through winter. Praise the secrets we hold and bear. Praise hunger, praise boats we build for escaping. Praise rain that chips away at the walls between us. Praise how you love to watch birds fly. And then the last poem I'll read is Someday I'll Love Nadia Alexis. It's after Frank O'Hara, after Roger Reeves, after Ocean Dawn. Someday I'll love Nadia Alexis. I know this. But again, we offer our wings for the plucking because venturing into fire some nights is more home than dancing on moonlit ground to worship the reach and freedom of our shadows. Untouchable, this is what we long for. This is what we know. It's okay that we make feasts of memories that refuse to leave our bodies. Still, more women than wound, more festival than forsaken. Nadia, do not forget that you are still here. Here we are made of tulips and singing sunsets, and tide ever returning to the doors of new homes we dream up from this thick air. Look how we wear glory and stumble, and jewels we collect with imperfect intention, and baskets we found along the way. A white candle burns for our future. It matters that we almost killed our oceans, that we almost let him bury us too. Sometimes failures are blessings. Every moment we spend putting water and air back into our body is worth getting to the someday we know is waiting. Even as we work to shake fear of extended hands attached to harmless faces that remind us of his smothering, of nightmares of being lost in foreign woods that reject the sun and us. We will not let scars be the only map we see. Consider our mother, the hope in her passed along to us is field of trees that can't be cut no matter the weapons. Consider our grandmother and hers, all of us, daughters of light and steel, of rivers flowing two ways, of yearly independent soup. We've got machete and spirit in our own everlasting, overgrown gardens. Thank you.
Is it okay if I unplug?
Yeah. Get it out. Oh, yeah.
If that's okay.
Yeah, get it out.
Beautiful. Perfect.
All right, what a wonderful note to end on. Beautiful image of a garden. That was a lovely note to transition to our next portion. Now it is our audience's time to shine. So if you guys have any questions for our poets, feel free to raise your hand. I'll call on you. Try to project a little bit so both our poets can hear and also the folks on the live stream can hear. But yeah, if anyone has questions, raise your hand. Go right ahead.
I know it's like picking your favorite child, but what is your favorite poem, each of you, from your books?
Can y'all hear me okay? Okay, the question was, what is my favorite poem in the book? Why would you ask that? I don't know.
To challenge you.
I think, I could not answer the question and talk about a couple. I think maybe the poem that feels most at the heart of the book for me is the self-portrait and tactile replica that I read tonight. It's just because I think it sort of really incorporates a lot of what is maybe more disparate across other poems, but I think sort of the focus on personal emotion, but within the framework of the art gallery and accessibility. I think it's maybe the most summative poem, and I think I sort of turn to it when I'm trying to understand the collection. And my other answer is the first poem I wrote for the book is a poem called A Case for Self-Harm. The first line is, which I cannot make, so don't get it twisted. But that was the first poem I wrote where I think I was starting to figure out what this book was going to be. And I think I rewrote it maybe a dozen times before it ended up being what's in the book. But I think too, similarly, I guess I like it because it feels locative and it feels like a way of like tracing my own understanding and like me trying to pin down the knowledge that the poems were coming up with while I was coming up with the poems. So probably one of those two.
I'm so glad you said two, because I was gonna say
Literally
two.
two, yeah.
Whenever someone asks me for one favorite, I always pick two. So it changes, but I think for me, the title poem of the book, the first poem that I read, Watershed, is one of my favorites in the book because, well, it was the last poem that I wrote for the first draft of the collection. So it was kind of like, I see it kind of as a roadmap, and also it was kind of strange. Like if you read it, some people might think, what is going on here? But I think I'm attempting to capture how layered the human experience is, especially when you're thinking about things like trauma and what you inherit. And I'm also thinking about the idea of a watershed. I like that word and how it has multiple meanings. And I felt like it was fitting as a metaphor to think about for the book. And then the other one is the Someday I'll Love Nadia Alexis poem. Is one of my favorites. The book has some light in it and also has some dark in it. And I thought about the experience, the reading experience that I want to provide, who I imagine to be my ideal reader. And I just wanted to, it comes later in the book, and I feel like it offers some hope, but it also acknowledges lineage and plays with water and landscape. I read Ocean's, Someday I'll Love, Ocean Vuong's poem, and then I found Roger Reeves's, and so, they inspired the poem. So it's more hopeful and still acknowledging what the speaker still struggled with at the time.
Any other questions? Yeah, go right ahead.
The question is also for both of you. Can you talk about your mentors?
Oh. Yeah, Molly.
I have mentors from when I lived in New York, because that's where I was born and raised. So people that I've taken workshops with, primarily poets of color. I think those who I consider mentors are the ones that I stay in touch with or feel like they really cared about me continuing to write. And then I have some in grad school who I didn't know their work until I got to grad school, but they understood my work, they understood what I was trying to do, even when they have a different writing style than me. And the poets and writers that I'm thinking of are also poets and writers of color for the most part. And I think that there's something about being able to feel seen, but also challenged by my mentors that have been really helpful to me. And it's something that it's been instructive also, because in terms of how I engage with my own students. And so I have people that still check on me and still send me opportunities, and that feels like an extended kind of family. When I go to poetry readings, I feel like I'm at church, and so I feel like we're a part of the same poetry church, church that's good for you. So yeah.
Yeah, I feel like it's like Turtles All the Way Down, except it's mentors doing what feels really radical support for me. I think that's sort of been my biggest overarching theme, and having wonderful mentors from sort of high school through college and graduate school. And most of my mentors have been academic. They've also been really wonderful community mentors. I think just the book is very inspired by my friends, and I think maybe I'm learning the most and feeling most guided when my friends are showing me ways of caring that maybe you wouldn't even think of as strictly care or public health or anything like that. But there are all these sort of not insidious but ingrained ways of taking care of each other that I think I've really learned from my friends. So I think a lot of my friends are my biggest mentors, but in terms of those in more formal mentorship roles, it's always just felt bonkers to me how much a mentor will do for you. I've had just, professors I've like cold emailed asking for help moving across like country lines, and they respond like, "Yep, we'll get it set up." It's just very fabulous. And I've always felt so supported, and like it's almost felt undue at times, just where I'm like, I don't think I've given you enough like info about myself and my work for you to feel this confident taking such a big swing for me. And I think one of the greatest blessings of now getting to teach and mentor myself is both getting to do that sort of big swinging for my students and my mentees, and being in a position where I see that it really isn't big swings at all, and in fact, like, I am able to like, oh, I see something in this young poet that they do not see in themselves, and so this is gonna feel like reckless care for them, but on my end, it feels like very sensible care to be giving. Yeah, I think my best mentors have helped me become a better mentor.
Any other questions? Oh, sorry, you're behind the pillar. I missed you. Go right ahead.
Can you hear me okay? Okay. This is maybe a lighthearted question, but both of you, I thought, interestingly mentioned tulips
Yeah.
and some of the poems that you selected. And I'm curious about how different writers use different words to mean different things. So I was wondering if you could talk about what tulips evoke for you.
Yeah. You know me? I love
The question's about tulips. What do tulips mean to me? I love that question. The tulips for me are like super specific. Sylvia Plath has a poem called Tulips, and in 2020 I was on this big memorization train where I was wandering around the neighborhoods of Austin, Texas, middle of the night, just like reciting poetry to myself. It's a really good way to like sort of like have language start percolating in your body, and like the more you're memorizing work, like not just sort of like individual words from those poems, worms are the tulips, not only individual like bits of language from those poems start coming out of your own work, but like Kadish ideas. And so Tulips is like kind of a long, dense poem, and the speaker is fed up with the tulips, and I love the idea of being mad at a flower. And so I really spent like a couple months sort of just like mumbling that poem into my breath to myself. And so there was kind of no way it wasn't gonna make it into the work I was doing. And I was writing the play at that time, which is how it sort of got there. But yeah, I can't suggest memorizing a poem enough. It doesn't have to be long like Tulips. Memorize a short little poem. It feels good. You'll notice your emails changing and becoming more poetic.
I grew up in a home where my mom had a lot of faux flowers around, and she just likes the way that they looked. And so my mom loves flowers. That's what and so to me it kind of symbolizes like, peace, beauty. She might have even had tulips, I don't know, but tulips, I just kind of chose it because being on a walk in Lower Manhattan near Poet's House, there were some nice tulips planted in the ground, and so that's something that kind of stayed with me. So you kind of just go through your life, and sometimes these images will pop back up, and so that's kind of how I see it in that particular poem, and how I think flowers appear in other poems as well. So, yeah.
We do have time for one more question. If anyone has one, yeah, go right ahead.
So it sounds a little crazy of me to ask and a little ignorant. But I don't actually read a lot of poetry, but I was wondering if you had any recommendations on how to read your books in a way that would evoke emotions that maybe you felt like while you were writing it, or just like the general landscape of your book. How would you recommend it?
I want people to read the book however way they want to read the book, but I think for me, So the emotional journey in the book, I mean, it kind of starts when the speaker is young and like where her mother is from, and then kind of goes up from there. It's not really chronological, but it trends in that way. And I think the photographs in the book are there for a number of reasons, and I'm always curious to hear what people think when they see the photographs in there. But for me, it was important for me to include it because I feel like it evokes spirituality, but also there are some photographs where you can see the Black female figure more clearly, even though there's still the blur element. So there's something significant about being able to see her standing and alive, especially toward the end of the book as well. And so I think it's kind of, there's a poem where the speaker says to look beyond the burning. And so I think what I hope is that people can read the book and see its layers and how, what the speaker is looking towards. There's a hope and a belief in a someday that she is looking toward. And so I kind of hope that comes through, but the people want to hop around, but yeah. Does that answer your question? Okay.
I think this is such a fabulous question. I think the advice I'd give first for reading my book is advice I'd give for reading any poetry, which is you have to put understanding aside. Poetry is really something you feel through. Prose is great for thinking. Poetry is great for feeling. And so you have to kind of let go of the literal, let go of like figuring out, and really just sort of let the language wash over you. And I think whatever you like, you might not come away with like new nuggets of knowledge, but you will come away with new feeling and sensation. And I think that's one of the things that we get out of poetry that we maybe don't always get out of prose. But then more concretely to my book, I really paid a lot of attention as I was going into writing this book, just to how I felt when I was reading books of poetry. And I knew I was meeting the needs of the books, because the need of a book is for you to read it. So I was meeting the needs of the books, and I didn't always feel like the books were meeting my needs. They were sort of demanding attention where I didn't have attention. They were demanding levels of thought that I wasn't prepared to give. They were tiring me. And so when I was writing this book, there's a whole sort of introductory section that sort of coaches you through reading it. You don't have to read it in order. You don't have to read it in one sitting. You don't have to understand anything. I want you to be comfortable. You have to lay down. You can't sit at a desk. Just in general, I'm never at a desk. You can be in bed instead and do the same thing, And so also only read it in the right headspace. I think sometimes people are like, "Ooh, I gotta get reading in," and you don't always, right? And then when your body is ready to read, you'll read. And so I think the best way to read this book is how do I feel? And then let me bring that to the book. So yeah, it's not asking, I don't want the book to ask too much of you, because you're already doing so much for the book by opening it.
What a beautiful sentiment to end on. Fantastic question also. I'm gonna file that one in my back pocket to ask at future events. Thank you to our audience for your amazing questions, for being here, for your attention and time and positive energy. You all have been so lovely. And thank you, of course, to Rob and Nadia for being here. Everyone, let's give them one more round of applause. If you are interested in checking out either of these beautiful collections, you can do so at the back counter over there. Otherwise, our poets will be right here at this table to sign, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your night. Thank you again so much.